Welcome into GM territory, where we analyze and evaluate the game through a lens you don't usually get, the general manager and front office point of view. I'm your host, Trey Bowden, and alongside me is Jim Bowden, a former Major League general manager for over 16 years with the Cincinnati Reds and Washington Nationals, a former MLB Executive of the Year, and now he's an MLB analyst and insider that you can see on CBS, read him in The Athletic, and hear him on SiriusXM. All right, Jim, let's get right into it. Today, we're kicking off the show by previewing the AL East. We'll go team by team. Jim will grade each club's offseason and identify one breakout player, and then I'll give you one prospect you need to monitor in each organization. No fluff, just front office thinking. Without further ado, let's start with the defending AL East champions, the Toronto Blue Jays. Jim, the Blue Jays had what many consider a banner offseason. From a GM's perspective, how did you view the moves that they made?
Yeah, I gave him a straight A, Trey. I thought it was a really good offseason for them. And look, they came within an inch of being world champions, almost beating the Los Angeles Dodgers. But the one thing they learned in the World Series is the Dodgers just had better starting pitching than they did, whether it be in the rotation or using starters in the bullpen. And so they tried to address pitching as their number one offseason priority. And I thought President Mark Shapiro and GM Ross Atkins did a really good job striking early in free agency and landing Dylan Cease on a 7-year, $210 million contract. And what I loved about it is the fact over the last 5 years, Cease has been the only pitcher in baseball to make 30 starts, pitch 200 innings with over 200 strikeouts. So to add him to the top of their rotation with Kevin Gausman, the rookie Trey Savage, who's one of the best young starters in baseball, the veteran Shane Bieber, I feel like Toronto has just really improved the rotation. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is I love their signing of Cody Ponce from overseas. This guy's got great downward plane. His stuff is off the charts. And if this translates to production, this could be one of the best undervalued signings of the offseason. So I thought that was an important sign. And then I love the pickup of Tyler Rogers for the back of the bullpen. Why? Because, Trey, it gives them a different look in the bullpen. This is a submariner. He's pitched in high leverage situations. He can close. He can set up. He can be a right-handed specialist. He gets righties and lefties out. I love the arm angle. So I thought that was a really good pickup as well. Now, that being said, on the flip side, they did lose Bo Bichette, who led the American League in hits twice in his career, was one of the most focused Blue Jays, and certainly he's going to be missed. There's no doubt. But they did try to counter that by signing Japanese third baseman Kazuma Okamoto. Okamoto, first baseman, third baseman, I think he's going to hit. I'm expecting 270 with 20 homers, something like that. But here's my concern, Trey. My concern is his defense. I've had mixed reports from people that scouted him in Japan. I have a lot of teams saying he should play first and not third base. And so the one thing about the Blue Jays, as we saw them in the World Series, this was the best defensive team in the American League. They're now going to be probably below average at third base. And with a healthy Anthony Santander, they could be below average in left field as well. So as much as I love the offseason, and I still think the Blue Jays are the team to beat in the AL East, without a doubt. But that being said, how much they're going to miss Bichette, we're going to find out. But I'm very happy with what they did this offseason. I gave them a straight A.
Straight A. Wow, that's a great grade. So now give me the breakout player for the Blue Jays this year.
Yeah, I'm going to go with right fielder Addison Barger. I really like this kid's bat. I think he's going to develop into a 30 home run, middle of the order bat. And I think the Blue Jays are going to need that with Bichette gone. I do. I think you're going to have protection for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at first base. And I think Barger's going to give that to them. I really like the bat. So I think he's going to have a breakout year. And by the way, I think Guerrero's going to have a much better year. Only 21 homers last year. I'm expecting him to get back to 30 home runs this year. So look, I love the Blue Jays. I love them because their defense is elite outside of third base and left field. I love the fact they have speed. They flash the glove. And offensively, look, this team has great plate discipline. They put the ball in play with power. Love that combination. So the Blue Jays got better this offseason on the mound. How much they miss Bichette might have to do with how much Okamoto and Barger can add.
All right, prospect wise for Toronto, I really like the shortstop they drafted last year in JoJo Parker. Parker was the Blue Jays' first round pick. He's still a teenager and not close to the big leagues yet, but I love the ceiling that this guy has. Super excited to see what he has in store in the big league level. All right, now, before we move on to the Yankees, please, please, please subscribe, comment, like. We would really appreciate it. All right, Jim. Let's move on to the Yankees now, who ironically finished with the same regular season record as Toronto last year, but had a much quieter offseason. How did you grade the Yankees offseason from the front office side?
Yeah, so I gave them a B minus. Look, GM Brian Cashman made it very clear when the season was over. His number one priority was to bring back Cody Bellinger. And although it took him until mid to late January to bring him back, he finally got the deal done. And that was a very important sign for them. But keep in mind, that doesn't make the Yankees better. That just kind of keeps them where they are. So when you look at the additions besides Bellinger, they made the trade with the Miami Marlins to pick up Ryan Weathers, a left-handed starting pitcher, and that was depth they definitely needed for the back of the rotation. And I think he's got upside. And I think being around Garrett Cole and Max Fried is going to help Weathers get to the next level. Remember, his father, David Weathers, also pitched for the New York Yankees. So I think there's upside there. I kind of like the trade. Now, they did give up a plethora of prospects in that deal. So we'll see how it plays out long term. But for the Yankees, I thought that was a big addition. And then, look, they got Ryan Yarbrough. They picked up Paul Blackburn to give them some starting pitching depth for early in the season because they're going to start the year with both Garrett Cole and Carlos Rodon on the injured list. I also like the pickup of Ahmed Rosario, who can play, two or three infield positions, outfield corners if you need it, but gives them a right-handed bat that this team needs. The other thing they did this offseason that surprised me, Trey, is the offering of the qualifying offer to Trent Grisham. I thought that was an overpay for Grisham for 1 year, to be honest. But I love the fact they got a couple of young outfielders coming in Jason Dominguez and Spencer Jones. So they do have some good depth there. So, look, I like this team, but because they didn't add a lot of pieces, I know Yankee fans are really upset, and they're used to, bigger moves in the offseason than what they did. So when I look at the Yankees, I kind of feel like there's two different ways they can get to another level. Number one, if their guys get healthy. Garrett Cole, when he finally comes back from Tommy John, and we don't know when that date is going to be, but it's going to be sometime in the first half of the season. If he is back being the Cy Young candidate he once was, that's going to be huge for them. Carlos Rodon will start the year on the injured list, but when he comes back, that's going to be big. So you look at those two guys coming off the IL, and then you've got the shortstop, Anthony Volpe, had shoulder surgery. He's going to start the year on the IL. But when they get healthy, this is a much better Yankee team. And the other thing about the Yankees to keep in mind, because they didn't make a lot of moves, there is another way where they can be better than they were last year. And that is if their young core can take another step forward. I'm talking about catcher Austin Wells, first baseman Ben Rice, and Volpe, who we just mentioned. So, look, I think this Yankee team is still the second best team in the division. They didn't have as good an offseason as Toronto, but I still gave them a solid grade because just because you make a lot of moves doesn't mean you're going to get better. Sometimes the best answers are in-house, and the Yankees, whether it's guys getting healthy or core guys taking the next step, they can get better that way too.
All right, Jim, now give me a breakout player for the Yankees this year.
Yeah, I'm going to go with first baseman Ben Rice. Like, I'm a big believer that he's going to be a 30 home run, 100 RBI type of player, maybe even more, given the confines of the short porch and right field at Yankee Stadium. And the fact that he's not going to be platooning with Paul Goldschmidt, doesn't have to worry about at-bats. He's basically going to be playing first base almost every single day. I think Ben Rice is going to take his game to another level. Now, tell me about a prospect I have to watch in the Yankee system.
Well, from a prospect standpoint, the name I'm watching in the Yankee system right now is Spencer Jones. Jones made huge progress last year between AA and AAA, 35 bombs, almost 30 stolen bags, and a 362 on base percentage. Get out of here. The strikeouts are still a concern, yes, but the tools are undeniable. I won't be surprised if he's pushing for a bigger role and potentially challenging Trent Grisham by the All Star break.
I
All
love
right.
that take. I love that take. You know what else I love about Spencer Jones? It's his presence, right? Like
Yeah.
when he walks in the room, he's like somewhere between Aaron Judge and Paul O'Neill, just presence wise. And then, because I've covered him a lot, including, this in the summertime at the All Star game. One of the things that I love about him is the power's real and the speed is real. So, you mentioned the strikeouts. If the hit tool comes, and he's developed a lot, right? He got rid of the bar in the front arm. If he can put the ball in play, I mean, he's got a chance to be a star. So I'm really looking forward to him. I'm glad that you brought him up.
Yeah, it'll be exciting to see, what kind of progress he makes throughout the year. And I am expecting him in the big leagues, hopefully by the All-Star break or sooner. All right, let's head to one of the biggest rivalries in sports. Let's head to Boston. What did you make of Boston's offseason?
Yeah, so I gave Boston a B plus. Little disappointed they didn't get a bat. Little disappointed they couldn't retain Alex Bregman. But let me start by telling you what I did like and why I gave them a B plus. I like the fact they added 3 new starting pitchers to their rotation. I now love the fact that they're 7 or 8 deep in terms of starters. Let's talk about the first one. They traded for Sonny Gray of the St. Louis Cardinals. And what I love about Gray is he fits in nicely behind Garrett Crochet in the rotation. Crochet has that power arm. It's going to blow you away with strikeouts. He's one of the top 3 starting pitchers, arguably, in baseball. And when you follow Crochet's stuff on the left side, and the next night you're facing the right-handed Gray with that curveball that he's got, that is a deadly combination and a really different look. Now, their next big move was signing Ranger Suarez, the former Philadelphia Philly southpaw, put him in the 3rd spot in the Red Sox rotation. And now think of this. Crochet's overpowering fastball. Then you got Sonny Gray from the right side, the curveball. Then you got the left-handed Ranger Suarez with the incredible changeup that he's got. So you got 3 really different looks going back to back to back. And then, of course, you got Brian Bayo. And I also love the 2 left-handers that they have who may start the year in the minor leagues. We'll get to them in a minute when we talk about prospects, but very excited about both of them. But I do want to talk about the loss of Bregman, because remember in June they traded Rafael Devers, and they were giving everyone the impression that they were going to take that money and reinvest it in Alex Bregman and keep him, because Bregman was so impactful for the Red Sox last year, offensively, defensively, and more important is leadership qualities for all the great young players that the Red Sox have. And they really didn't replace him. So I think that's going to be a loss on the offensive side of things. But let me tell you what I love. I love their outfield. This is one of the better defensive outfields in baseball. Wilyer Abreu, the Gold Glover in right field, who manager Alex Cora said he's not going to just be a platoon player. He thinks he can hit lefties and righties. Cedar Rafael in center is a platinum center fielder. He's one of the best defensive center fielders in the game. He's got speed. He's got power. We'll see where the hit tool takes him. And then in left field, I love Roman Anthony. I think he's going to be Rookie of the Year. This kid has all the tools without a doubt. So love the outfield. And then you got Jarren Duran, who can play all 3 outfield positions or DH. He's got the power speed combination. He's already been in an all-star game, so I love him. So the questions come in the infield. Now they traded for Wilson Contreras, who's going to give you 20 homers, 80 RBIs playing first base. That's an upgrade over Tristan Casas and everybody else they ran out at first base. So I love him. David Hamilton's at second. You got Trevor Story at short. He's aging. Wasn't great defensively, but shows flashes of the old Trevor Story when he was with the Rockies. He's going to be a very important part of this team. And then at third base, they're going to have to count on the young Marcelo Meyer not bringing Bregman back and not being able to sign Bichette or really bring anybody else back in. So that's what the infield. Narvaez did a good job of catching. So look, you got an impact closer in Aroldis Chapman. Red Sox look like a playoff team to me, without a doubt. B plus, though, their grade is mainly because of what they did with the pitching staff this offseason.
All right, now give me a breakout player for the Red Sox this season.
Trey, this is easy for me. I'm going left fielder Roman Anthony. This is one of the best young players in the game. The ceiling is unlimited of what he can be. I believe this player will win an MVP award during his career, maybe 2. I think this is a player we're going to be visiting at the All-Star games. Certainly a player that we're going to be visiting during award seasons in November. I love Roman Anthony, and I'm expecting huge things from him in 2026. Clearly the breakout player for the Boston Red Sox for me.
And you mentioned earlier the prospects, those two left-handers. I'm super excited about them, and Peyton Tully and Connolly Early. Both made MLB debuts last year, but likely I think they're going to start the season back in the minors. They provide valuable starting pitching depth, and don't be surprised if one of them eventually becomes part of a trade or, for another bat in the lineup. All right, let's move to Baltimore. Jim, the Orioles continue to build this thing the right way. How did you view their offseason?
Well, I gave them an A, and let me kind of go through why. I love the fact they went out and added serious power. Pete Alonso comes over from the Mets. This guy hit 38 homers last year. He's played in 162 games each of the last 2 years in the regular season for the New York Mets. He grinds every day. I like that influence on the young hitters in Baltimore, the importance of playing every day. I also like the pickup of Tyler Ward. So you've added basically 74 home runs between Alonso and Ward. And it's not just adding them to the lineup, Trey. It's the force multiplier that you get in the Orioles lineup. Having that kind of power in the lineup takes all the pressure off the young core of the Orioles lineup. Now, a lot of their young players did not have great years last year. Catcher Adley Rutschman was a huge disappointment. Jackson Holliday hasn't lived up to expectations yet. Gunnar Henderson, a little step backwards last year. But I think all three of those guys are going to take off because the pressure's off them with Alonso and Ward. So I think that's going to help them. And they have so many good young players. Colton Cowser in center field, Dylan Beavers in right field, who probably will platoon some if Tyler O'Neill can stay healthy. And I love the young rookie Sam Basayo, who also can DH and also do some catching. So when I look at this Orioles team right now offensively, Trey, I like where they are. I think it's going to be one of the top 5 offensive teams in baseball. I really do. I think a lot of these young kids are going to take a big step, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. Now the question becomes, can they pitch, right? I mean, that's the question with Baltimore. Do they have enough pitching to contend, to win the division or get a wild card berth? I don't have the answer yet, but I will say this. I love their offseason pickup of Shane Baz. They gave up a lot to Tampa Bay, a lot of prospects, none of which were close to the big leagues. But I thought that was very important. So you put him with the emerging Trevor Rogers at the top of the rotation, Dean Kramer, Kyle Bradish, and they also brought back Zach Eflin, who appears to be healthy. So they've got a solid 5-man rotation, although I would have liked them to land Framber Valdez or Zach Allen. I would have felt a little bit better about Baltimore with that. I did like what they did in the bullpen, adding Ryan Helsley and Andrew Kittredge. Helsley got hit hard after he got traded to the Mets from the Cardinals at the trade deadline, but the slider is still there. It's still a wipeout pitch. The question becomes, can his fastball be located with a little bit more movement, get it back to what it once was, and that would help. But I love what the Orioles did this offseason, and I will give you a breakout player for the Baltimore Orioles, Trey, and that is second baseman Jackson Holliday. I think he's got his feet wet. I think he's ready to do it. And with him leading off for Baltimore, knowing that Gunnar Henderson and Pete Alonso is going to be behind him in the lineup, I am looking for a huge year from Jackson Holliday. All right, let's give me a prospect for the Orioles we need to monitor.
All right, 2 names for you. Samuel Basayo and Dylan Beavers. Both are being given a legitimate runway to win everyday roles at the major league level. With how deep Baltimore's lineup is, there won't be much pressure on them to carry the offense early. Basayo, in particular, is one of the best hitting prospects in baseball and should be a legitimate AL Rookie of the Year candidate. All right, Jim, before we move on to Tampa Bay, I just want to give one hot take here. I'm taking Pete Alonso to have the most home runs in the major leagues this season, given that he's at Camden Yards. That is a top 5 hitters park, and that's my hot take. I don't know if you agree, disagree. What do you think?
I'm going to go with Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani and Kyle Schwarber,
All
and I'll
right.
put a after them. But I do like your take. I'm all right with
It's a
it.
hot take. That's why it's a hot take.
All right, I got you. I hear
All
you.
right. All right. Well, let's wrap up with Tampa Bay now. How did you
Okay.
view the Rays offseason? As usual, working the margins. What do you think?
Yeah, look, I was a little disappointed, but they were very active, right, in both free agency and trades. Let's take a look at the graphic here. They bring in Cedric Mullins on a 1-year deal. You know, Mullins really has gone backwards the last couple of years offensively, but he can still run the ball down in center field. They made a three-way trade, landing Gavin Lux from the Cincinnati Reds. They think he is going to be their everyday second baseman, replacing Brandon Lau. He really didn't live up to potential with the Dodgers or Reds. Not sure why we think he's going to do it with Tampa, but I know they're very high on him. And I never bet against President Eric Neander of the Tampa Bay Rays, that's for sure. They bring in journeyman Steven Matz for the back of the rotation. And then, of course, Jake Fraley, Steven Wilson, and Jacob Milton get added. But look, they parted ways with Brandon Lau, traded him to the Pittsburgh Pirates. I think they're going to miss those 30 homers. They dealt Josh Lowe to the Angels. They were ready to move on from him. But 2 years ago, I thought he was, a 20 home run right fielder for them. Trading Shane Baz was difficult, but they're rebuilding their system. And then, of course, you got Peter Fairbanks, their closer. He has gone on and signed a free agent deal with the Miami Marlins. So, when I look at the Tampa Bay Rays, it's not what they were. I mean, I see this as the last place team. They're rebuilding. I thought a lot of their trades had more to do with 3 years from now. Had more to do with, hey, when we move into the new stadium, hopefully we'll be ready to win. But I don't think they did enough at the major league level to be able to not be a last place team in 2026, to be honest.
All right, now give me a breakout player for the Rays this year. We got the lineup out right here. Anyone in the lineup strike you?
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go with left fielder Chandler Simpson. I love the speed. If you blink, you might not see him go to the next base. He is so fast. Reminds me when I had Deion Sanders in Cincinnati, that kind of speed. Now, the biggest question is going to be, can he get on base enough? He understands the role. He's got to learn to bunt, slap, got to get more walks. He's got to get on. If he gets on enough, he could steal 100 bases. I'm not exaggerating. He can steal 100 bases if he gets on. Doesn't have a lot of pop, still needs to do some work defensively, but the speed covers a lot of ground without a doubt, and they'll be moving back to the Trop, the Tropicana Field. That's where they'll be playing instead of George Steinbrenner Field this year. So I think he's got a chance to break out. I think he has the potential of developing into one of the best leadoff hitters in baseball if he can figure out how to take more pitches, get on base more often, because that speed plays. There's no doubt about it. All right, give me a prospect that I need to monitor in spring training for the Rays, Trey.
All right, the prospect I'm watching in Tampa Bay is Jacob Melton. He was acquired in a three-team deal trade involving the Pirates and Astros. He's a toolsy left-handed hitter with above average speed and power, can handle center field, and has a strong baseball IQ. He still needs to work against the off-speed pitches, but if the hit tools click, the tools and instincts could really, really play.
I like that call. I do. It's interesting because they have been collecting a lot of outfielders, right, in the last 2 years. It's going to be interesting to watch that competition in spring training. It's going to be interesting to see who's in that starting lineup opening day. I don't think they even know who it's going to be. And certainly Melton's going to be one of those guys that's going to be in the mix. So, yeah, fascinated to watch him. Love that prospect call.
All right, so as we head to spring training, tell me, as of today, how do you see the AL East laying out for the rest of the season?
Yeah, as of now, look, I still have the Toronto Blue Jays as the team to beat in the AL East. I love their additions to the pitching staff and Dylan Cease, Ponce, and Tyler Rogers. I've got the Yankees in second place. I think they could still win the division. A lot has to go right, including the return of Cole and Rodon in free agency, although I do think that they're too left-handed in the lineup. I think they need another right-hand hitter somewhere, and I worry about the lack of offense at third base. I've got the Red Sox in third place. I love what they've done with their starting pitching. They can pitch. Their outfield can play defense. I just wonder if they're not a bat short. I think they're going to really miss Alex Bregman. I've got the Orioles in fourth place, although I love their offense. I think it's going to be a top 5 offense in baseball. But do they have enough pitching? I'm not sure they've solved that yet. I still think they need one more starting pitcher. So I've got, Blue Jays, Yankees, Red Sox, Orioles, and then Tampa Bay in fifth place. And I think they're taking another step back. I think they're building longer term right now. But look, I think those first 4 teams in this division, I think they can all make the playoffs. I really do. But I think the Blue Jays are still the team to beat.
That's going to do it for our AL East preview here on GM Territory. We would appreciate it if you would like and hit the subscribe button, and we look forward to your visit next week when we grade the NL West teams. For Jim Bowden, I'm Trey Bowden. Ciao and chillax.
We gone.